Water, electricity, natural gas, and heating oil, all of these are charged based off of usage. Some people consider like phone or cell phone or internet to be, they'll call them utilities, but they're not actually utilities. Maybe home phone if you're charged per usage for like long distance or stuff, but utilities are charged based off of your usage. And it's water, electricity, natural gas, and then up north you have heating oil. We don't really have that down here because, well, it's Florida. We don't need it. The meter is what tracks the utility usage. Most of them are digital now. But if you have like an older home, or you move into like an older apartment complex, there's a chance that there could be an older meter still, and those won't be digital. Those are, thank you. Okay. The watt is the unit of electricity, and then we have a kilowatt, which is 1,000 watts. Now the watt is an actual unit of electricity. It's basically how much electricity will travel between 2 points in a certain amount of time. But a watt of electricity is very small. So we measure it in kilowatts when we're talking about billing and things like that, because, you know, like watts is like a tiny little light bulb. But we don't just have like a tiny little light bulb. We have ovens and refrigerators and air conditioners and computers and TVs and DVRs and clocks and every single thing that you have plugged in your house, even if you're not currently using it, like your TV or your DVR, rather. You know, if it has that little standby light on it, it's using electricity. If it has a clock on it, like the microwave, the oven, the coffee pot, even if you're not using it, it's using electricity. So we waste kind of a lot of electricity. But no, some things aren't. Like your toaster. Like if you have a standard toaster, it's plugged in all the time. It's not actually using any electricity until you actually depress the thing to toast. But anything that has a light on it that stays on or a display is constantly using. Anything electronic that doesn't have a display that saves settings is also using electricity, even if you're not using it. I'm not sure on a phone charger. I don't think so, because you're not closing the circuit. If it's not attached to anything, you're not closing the circuit, so I don't think so. So anyway, electricity is charged in kilowatts, and so a watt hour is the number of watts used in an hour. That's how it's measured. And we're charged in kilowatt hours, which is the number of kilowatts used in an hour. So that's how they charge you for electricity. Water is charged and measured in cubic feet. Let me see if I put this on the next page or this page. Yeah, okay. Water is charged in cubic feet. So like if you could take liquid water and make it into a solid shape of a cube of 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. But on the bill, almost every water bill I've ever seen, they convert it to gallons. And they do that so that you have a frame of reference. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. A CCF is 100 cubic feet. Okay, and this is what will show up if they are charging in, or they charge in CCFs. They don't charge by individual cubic feet. They give a rate in CCFs, which is 100 cubic feet. And again, they convert it to gallons. 100 cubic feet is 748.05 gallons, rounded. Okay, so just about 748 gallons in 100 cubic feet. That is a volume, so we're talking about a three-dimensional, I don't know why I put volume on here, three-dimensional representation of space. I don't know why I put that there, just ignore that. Okay, the way water and electricity and things are measured, you have a meter reader. You guys have seen meter readers. What they do is they have your previous reading, which is the last number read off the meter. And then they come in and they get your present reading, which is the current number read off the meter. And then your usage is present minus past. So they don't reset it every time. So like when you look at your meter, if we have Tom's water bill, his previous reading was 3,128. His current reading is 3,141. We want to know how much water did he use. So we take the 3,141 and we subtract the 3,128, and that is 13, right? Yeah, 13 CCF, which is 1,300 cubic feet, just so you have a frame of reference. And we want to know how many gallons is this? Well, 1 CCF is 748 gallons. So we're going to take the 13 CCF and we're going to multiply that by 748.05. 0.05 means that in October, Tom used 9,724 gallons, 0.65 gallons by himself. If you have a rotary meter, you see how this goes like counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. They alternate. You read them in the order of the numbers going up. So this one would read in this direction. This one would read in this direction. This one in this direction, and this direction. Okay? So this is between 0 and 1. So that means it hasn't reached 1 yet, which means it counts as 0. You always go to the next number down because it hasn't reached the number yet. So, and this is the first, this is the ones place, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. Okay, so I read this one. This is between 1 and 2, so I read it as 1. What happens is as this knob goes around, this hand goes around, as soon as it hits 0, this one will hit 6. And as this one goes around, as soon as it hits 0, this one will hit the next number up. So that's why when they're in between, you read them as the lower number. So between this is between 1 and 2, so I read it as 1. This is between 5 and 6, so I read it as 5. This is between 5 and 6, so I read it as 5. Here I'm between 0 and 9, so I read it as 9. Here I'm between 0 and 1, so I read it as 0. So this number is going to be 9551. So always the number lower, and that's because as the one dial next to it is traveling around the circuit, this one here moves from 5 to 6 in the amount of time it takes this one to go from 0 back to 0. And then this one here will move from 5 to 6 in the amount of time it takes. So this one moves relatively fast, and as you go up, each one is slower than the one before it. This one over here moves very, very, very slow. Does that make sense? Did you guys want to see what number would this be? 0 or 9?
9.
And this one would be
3. There you go.
not too bad? No, I didn't teach you how to count. I taught you how to read a meter. We want to know about 90 minutes, but I'm measuring in kilowatt hours. So first I have to turn 90 minutes into hours. So I'm going to divide it by 60. Okay. So I get 1.5 hours. So you have to always convert minutes to hours if you're talking about electricity because it's kilowatt hours, not kilowatt minutes. Okay. Now I have watts. So I'm going to find out how many watt hours I'm using. And then I'm going to convert that to kilowatt hours. And then I'm going to multiply that by the price. Okay. So we're using 125 watts for 1.5 hours. So that is 187.5 watt hours. Okay. Now remember there's 1,000 watts in a kilowatt. So I take that 187.5 watt hours and I divide it by 1,000. So I get 0.1875 kilowatt hours. And the K and the H are lowercase and the W is capital. I don't know why. That's just the way it is. Okay. Then I take that 0.1875 kilowatt hours and I multiply it by 10 cents each. And I'm going to get 0.01875, but you can't have all this mess. So it's going to be 0.02. So 2 cents for an hour and a half. This stuff on budget billing, okay, it's called balanced billing or budget billing. It'll also be called budget billing. And what the electric company does is they take your average usage by taking 12 months usage, they add it together, and then they divide by 12. And then they charge you that every month. So they're charging you your average usage. And that is really nice, balanced or budget billing, because you know exactly what your electric bill is going to be every month. So it's really useful. That's another reason they call it budget billing. It helps you to budget. It's not like, okay, in Florida, in the winter, we don't use as much electricity because it's not freezing cold here, you know. So it gets cold, but I'm saying we don't use as much electricity. In the summer, we use more electricity because we're running air conditioners, right? Now up north, that might be the opposite. People don't use as much electricity in the summer, and then they use a lot more in the winter, heating. But what happens is, so let's say in your average Florida house, you don't use your heater a lot, but you use your air conditioner all summer. Your summer electric bill could be like $400, and your winter electric bill is like $90. And that's really hard to budget. So what they do is they take your usage or the average usage in that area if you're a brand new customer, and they average it out and they split the difference, and so your bill is the same amount every month. At the end of the year, they reconcile it. So if you used more than you actually paid for, they'll add it to the next bill. So the last bill of the year, or when you started, so like if you go from April to the following April, it can change. But throughout that whole 12-month period, you're going to have an identical bill every month, which is really nice. So what these people have done is they've decided to go with budget billing, and last year they spent this much. So the electric company would take that and divide it by 12, and that would give us $278 a month. That would tell me that some bills were much lower than that and some bills were much higher than that. Any questions on budget billing? Energy efficient appliances pay for themselves. Maybe not right away, but over time. And here's what can happen. If you have an old appliance that uses more electricity, it will actually save you money on your monthly bill, so it's worth paying for the new appliance because over time the savings on your monthly bills will even out to what you paid, right? Yeah.
Have a energy efficient dryer.
Okay, so these people's water heater cost them $455 a year. Okay, they bought one for $1,240. Water heaters are not that expensive. But it's going to save them 31% annually off of this. So if we take that 31% of 455, it's going to save them $141.05 per year. Now, a water heater can last 10 to 20 years. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that cost of that water heater, we're going to divide it by how much it saved them. And it will pay for itself in 8.8 years, so almost 9 years. Okay. If this is a water heater that's going to last 10 years, that $141 a month that you're saving, that's $141 a year, that's $141 in your pocket. If it's a 20-year washing machine or water heater, then you've got another 11 years of it being $140 cheaper a year. Does that make sense? When it goes bad, yeah. So the energy efficient appliances will oftentimes pay for themselves. Sometimes they won't. And then you have to decide you just want to be good and not impact the environment by getting the energy efficient appliance, because some things don't last as long. The appliances, you can look up how many years they're rated for. And what that means is that's how many years they should be expected to last. Can they last longer than that? Absolutely, and they probably will, but there's no guarantee. Okay, you're going to be budgeting. You're going to be budgeting at some point. I'm giving you guys a project, and electronic utilities are things that use electricity. So you have things like, hold on, let me make a list. So these are all going to affect your bills, not just in the electric usage, but subscription services and usage like that. So you want to think about things like, do you spend much time on the internet? Now, back when this book was written, they had different internet plans where it would be like, yeah, but I mean, it would be like you had so many, megabytes per month or gigabytes per month. Now it's pretty much unlimited, but there are internet plans that still have caps. Satellite internet has usage caps. Mobile broadband, like an air card, has usage caps. So the benefit of an air card is you have your broadband internet. I can take it wherever I want to go, but I can only use so much before I'm going to get charged overages or they're going to shut it off. So when you're considering how much money you want to budget for the internet, you have to consider not only how much time do you spend on the internet, what are you doing on the internet. If you're just looking at Facebook and send an email, you don't need to pay for such as high of a speed as if you're watching Netflix 24/7. Okay. This one pretty much doesn't apply anymore for the most part, but I'm glad I put it on there anyway. Back when cell phones first became a thing and text messaging first became a thing, you know, when the dinosaurs walked the earth all of 15 years ago, you had, you had to, yeah, you had like different levels of plans, 400 text messages or 1,000, or you could have 10 cents each or unlimited for a ton of money. Anyway, back then there were limited text messages, so you needed to consider how many text messages are you going to make per month. You don't really have to worry about that anymore. However, home phone has now gone the other way. It used to be with your home phone, you just paid like whatever a month and then plus long distance, right? Now home phones are going the way of cell phones used to be. And now home phones are going to where you can get a cheaper home phone plan, like for really, really cheap, but then you'll have minute limits. Do you know the provisions of your cell phone contract? Like if you don't have an unlimited plan, which I don't pay for unlimited data because I don't use the data on my cell phone that much, and so it's a waste of money for me to have unlimited data. But I do have I have like 2 gigs. So I need to know what happens if I go over 2 gigs. How much is that going to cost me? Right, so I need to be aware of that. And this is the stuff that maybe sneaks up on you. Do you watch cable TV or satellite TV, or now are you just on the internet? You want to think about that. Is it really worth it? DirecTV with like no premium channels is $100 a month. Do you want to spend that much? But you know what I'm saying? Like you got it. These are things you need to think about when you're budgeting. Do you know the different plans? Like you can go online sometimes, periodically recheck the cell phone plans that are available. They change them all the time. There might be a cheaper plan that's only maybe slightly different than yours, but you're going to save, $10, $15 a month. It adds up. So always, know the different plans. Make sure that you have the right plan for your usage. One time for me this happened, and I switched from one T-Mobile plan to another T-Mobile plan. And I had like this unlimited T-Mobile to T-Mobile. Okay. Well, when I was talking to the person on the line and I said, how many minutes do I use per month? They didn't take into account all my T-Mobile to T-Mobile. Right? So they gave me too low of a number. So I went, okay, well, let me go with that plan based on my usage. And the next month I got a $900 phone bill because I had gotten rid of my mobile to mobile. Yeah, so you want to be really careful. You want to know your own usage. Don't count on them to tell you your usage. All right, checking your bills each month to see if they're correct. We're all guilty of not looking at our bills in detail. I don't go out and read my electric meter every single month to make sure that they're billing me correctly. But you should look them over, especially like we've talked about before in the past, your credit card bills, to make sure they're charging you the right finance charges and that there's not charges on there that you didn't do. Check your phone bill to make sure there's not charges on there that you didn't authorize. I checked my cell phone bill the other day, and for the last year, and I wasn't checking, and my own fault, I was getting charged taxes for 2 counties. I only live in 1 county, but I was being charged taxes for 2. So I got all of that credited back because it was a glitch. But These are things that you want to check. You want to make sure that there's not some random additional cell phone line on your bill suddenly that is not yours. Because people do that. They hack your account and open lines. Yes, they can. It's not terribly common, but they can open a line under somebody else's account if they have, like, it's identity theft related.
If they had like who had signed that people with
Mm-hmm.
the phone number.
Yeah, so they can hack and they can open a line on your account, and adding an additional line maybe only changes your bill $20. You might not be paying attention. You might think it just went up. And then you're paying for somebody else to have a phone and use your data. And then could you change or adjust your usage to lower your costs? Your electric bill, all those things we were talking about with the standby lights. If you get power strips that you can flip and turn them off while you're not home, or unplug them if you're not using them, things that use electricity when you're not using them, you could lower your costs. Water, things like that, you can lower your costs. So you just want to look at that. Gives me, no, whoops, $1.30 for that 7.5-minute phone call. This is called a piecewise function, and it's very confusing looking, right? Okay, all this is saying is up to 750 minutes is equal to $40. And this is saying it is 35 cents per minute after that. Okay, so when you see this, don't freak out. $40 for 750 minutes and less, and then 35 cents a minute after that. And that's describe the cost. There you go. Now, if they are using 1,234 minutes, we take that, we subtract the 750. So they went over by 484 minutes. So they're going to pay the $40 plus 35 cents times 484. So that is 40 plus 169.40. So their bill is going to be $209.40. And she has a choice. She can pay $40 for unlimited or 15 cents each. $209.40. You're welcome. So we want to see which is the better deal. So we're going to take her 800 text messages and multiply it by 15 cents. And that would be $120. So if the unlimited is $40 versus $120, if we take the $40 out, she'd save $60 a month. $60 a month. I knew that. $45 for unlimited or 12 cents each. We want to know how many minutes would they be equal. So 12 cents times a text is equal to $45. Divide both sides by 0.12. And X is going to be 375 texts. Homework is 1 through 17 odd.